So about a week ago now, Wreckreation was released. I heard about the game a long time ago. It was supposed to be a throwback to the Burnout games, more specifically, Burnout Paradise. An open world, plenty of opposing racers to intentionally crash into, high-speed chases on city streets. I was, to be honest, a bit hyped. At least, I was. Until I found out that Three Fields Entertainment was behind it. I've played one of their games before, Dangerous Driving, and although the devs claim to be veterans of the Burnout series, well, Dangerous Driving was slightly underwhelming to say the least. But I decided to give them another shot. Spoiler alert, I kinda wish I didn't. From the start, you get plopped right into the title screen, again with no music to pump you up. It's such a strange design choice. Typically, title themes of racing games give you licensed tracks to bob your head to, or amped up techno tunes to increase the adrenaline levels. Here, crickets. Not a good start, guys. Not a good start. But once you hit X to start the game, after a bit of loading, you're immediately thrown into a race on what is called a sky track, which should be self-explanatory. It's actually pretty fun though, and almost felt like I was racing around on an enlarged Hot Wheels track. Once you complete this, which acts as a bare-bones tutorial, you are given full reign of the 400 square kilometer world. And yes, the world does feel pretty massive. But this is a pro and a con though, which I'll get into in a bit. There's only one goal for you. Simply drive around and worry about collectibles or locate races. Races come in the normal Burnout style varieties: circuit races, point-to-point sprints, and road rages. For those not familiar with them, in a road rage, your goal is simply to make as many opponents crash as possible, while avoiding wrecking your own vehicle. There's a new modification to some of these races though, in the form of penalty road rages. In these, there are cars marked with a red arrow, and if you make them crash, you lose time. Truthfully, I dislike these races as it's way too easy to make them crash when you are aiming for someone else. Also, if you crash a legit racer into one of these penalties, the game oftentimes didn't count the original wrecked racer, leading to a lot of frustration. This isn't always a problem, but I have run into it a few times. The whole point of completing races is to earn license points, which can be considered the equivalent of XP points. The better you do in a race, the more points you earn. Earn enough of these points and you'll gain a new upgraded license, which seems to unlock more events for you to compete in. And the sooner you do this, the better, for one simple reason. There really isn't a lot to do in this game. At the start, races are few and far between, with me frequently driving constantly for 15 minutes or so before I encountered an event. Sure, I could bring up the map and highlight a path, but what's the fun of that if the whole point of the game is to just drive around causing chaos? I can understand that you'll be unlocking more events, but maybe the game should have taken a more measured approach, such as locking certain parts of the world away until you unlock higher licenses, and keep all of the events in areas that you have access to. Or maybe allow us to zoom the map out further. For a game boasting a 400 square foot world to play in, the map is not quite helpful enough. Secondly, and I hate to say it, but the races are, quite frankly, boring to play. Which is a bit of a problem considering that this is a, racing game. The tracks normally just follow straight lines with minimal turns, making every race feel like a slightly altered drag race. It makes each event feel samey, and that's not a good start. It also doesn't help that the AI is completely unfair either. You could be driving along at full speed, and opposing racers will just blaze on by without a care. Then catching back up to them can be a challenge. Driving controls feel off, and drifting is frustratingly stiff, making turning and staying on the road in that rare occasion where there's a curve almost impossible. Hope there's not a train in the way either, otherwise you're probably going to crash and find yourself further behind. On the topic of controls, your car, no matter what you have selected, does not handle in the most optimal fashion. And God forbid you use the handbrake in an attempt to perform a quick drift. Expect to just skid around and come to a complete stop. And it doesn't just happen when hitting square for the e-brake. I've tried to go around turns a few times, and my car just decides to have its mind of its own and veer completely off-road. It kinda made me glad at times that most portions of the races are just straightaways on highways. At least you can still take down your opponents, although even this feels underwhelming. See, doing takedowns has been simplified in Wreckreation. You no longer have to look for some object to push the opponents into. Now, simply ram them off the road in a nice peaceful patch of grass, and they'll still wreck out. Huh? Well, that's not fun. I want to see devastating hunks of metal flying around tree trunks and off of ravines, not a few flips into a meadow. Not to mention that the takedowns don't feel weighty, and by that, opponents barely move when you slam into them at 200 miles an hour. Another thing to be cautious of is the aftermath of takedowns. See, there's no invulnerability time anymore, so the camera will zoom into the crash and then switch back to your point of view. Problem is, if there's anything you can crash into in front of you, say like simple traffic, you're probably just gonna wreck yourself. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it either. Even better, after your vehicle resets, if you're still in the path of oncoming pedestrians, well, you might get the joy of crashing again. It's so frustrating when you're doing well in a race and encounter this problem, throwing you to the back of the pack with a steep uphill climb back to position 1. And yeah, it should come as no surprise, but there have been times I crashed with no indication of why. Just kiss the rear bumper of a vehicle while you're going maybe 5 miles an hour? Possible crash. Drive over a tree root that's barely sticking out of the ground? Crash. Hit any of the craggy rock faces on the mountainsides? Crash. Hit a cone? Well, maybe not crash, but you might be thrown into the air for no explicable reason. Seriously, the physics of this game are baffling at times. But at least you can open your car doors. Yeah. Hitting L1 and R1 opens your left and right car doors, provided that they are still attached to your vehicle. There's only been one reason I've found to do this, which I'll come to now. The collectibles. There are, for the most part, 3 types that I've found. Billboards, red gates, and live mix objects. Billboards also come in 3 varieties. Standard boards called ad breaks, trick boards called promo boards, and digital ones called, well, I don't remember, and I don't really care to look it up. Basically, you just need to drive through the standard billboards to destroy them for them to count. But for promo boards, you need to do a trick, shown on the board in a red circle. Flat spin means you need to slam on the e-brake at the top of the ramp and spin your vehicle horizontally. Corkscrew jumps are available if you need the barrel roll. Finally, open up both car doors and slam through the air brake billboard for that to count. You need to land the trick for these destructions to count though, and for the air brake, you must close the car doors before your vehicle lands. Some of these can be tricky to smash due to various speeds or obstacles in the way. Finally, those digital boards show the name of the player and their wrecking points scored when they smashed it, so it functions as a kind of lackluster leaderboard that probably no one cares about. Gates are simple enough. You just smash through them. There's just a ton of them to find, as in over 300. Finally, live mix objects are things that you can use in the live mix mode, which is one thing I did find interesting about the game. Live mix is a way that you can create fun obstacles on the fly. Basically, you enter live mix mode to pause the action and bring up what amounts to be a level editor. Choose what object you want to place and where, and it appears. Simple enough, and it's a great idea. Except, you don't have crap unlocked at the start. Pretty much all of these objects need to be found and collected in the world of Wreckreation, which again isn't a terrible idea. It's just that I feel like if they really wanted to promote this idea, a lot more objects should have been available to us from the start. In fact, Wreckreation really promotes the idea of customization. Along with the live mix mode, you can easily create different types of races using a basic checkpoint system. You can also customize the vehicle you are driving at any point, as well as the time of day, traffic, and so on. And in an improvement over dangerous driving, there's also multiple radio stations to listen to. However, I ended up muting the music as I'm not the biggest fan of EDM, and the so-called arena rock station sucked due to the music sounding generic. I also didn't want any copyright strikes levied against me for this video, so yeah, well, no big loss skipping the music here. Another thing to look out for in the world are opposing racers outside of races. These are special vehicles that, if you can get to crash, are unlocked for your own personal use. These can also be used in special events called reckonings, which sounds badass, but turns out these are just simple time trials. Complete them fast enough, and the vehicle used in the event will be upgraded. The few upgrades I found did seem to be pretty substantial. However, you need to make sure that you are driving the exact vehicle necessary when you approach the event. If not, you'll have to find a parking lot to change to the required car and return to the event starting point. You cannot change your vehicle at the event entry point. This gets kind of annoying, I must admit. Speaking of annoying, the game is constantly recommending that I play the obstacle course race, which I did, multiple times. Yet the game keeps giving me this pop-up in the top left of the screen. Is it because I'm not getting the gold? Or is it like the rest of the game? Functional enough to work, but broken enough to irritate. One last thing of note. Why is there no one driving these vehicles? Seriously, I had stopped to write a note down in my notebook, and realized that no one was driving in the vehicle that was angrily honking at me. Come to find out, there are no drivers at all. Is this what is going to happen when the world is entirely committed to autonomous vehicles? Scary. Okay, I lied. One more thing. No one seems to be playing the game online. I tried joining a match multiple times, but nothing ever happened. So I can't even see what the live mix is like with other players. I really was hoping that Wreckreation would be better than Three Field Entertainment's previous outing, Dangerous Driving, and it is, but not by much. The open world is promising, but it's just too empty for it to be enjoyable. The racing is marred by bland track layouts and unforgiving AI. The controls are stiff. The takedowns, one of Burnout's biggest trademark features, are lackluster. Overall, it's a game that shows its best points at first, with a really fun track set in the sky, but after this is over, the game gets boring quickly. It's like enjoying the demo of a game, then actually purchasing the full game to find out it was never really finished past the prologue. Three Fields Entertainment may have gotten my money twice now, but I can't say I'll buy any of their other products, especially if they are trying to ride the Burnout name. If this was foreshadowing on how the Burnout series would have turned out after Paradise, maybe it's best that it faded away into the books. And yes, I'm aware of Burnout Crash, which was released afterwards, but we're not going there. In closing, avoid this one. Even if you are a Burnout fan, there's nothing for you here. Wreckreation is a bigger wreck than any you'll encounter in the game itself. Final score, 3 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.